cheers for Mila Kunis. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
It's nice to see you. You're actually in the New York studio right now as we look at you on Zoom.
Are you guys all at home? Are you guys comfortable and half dressed? Let's be honest. You know, what are you wearing? Like shorts, sweatpants? What's underneath that jacket?
Today, we actually have to go in the studio after this. So we're both wearing pants.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's commitment.
Yeah.
You know?
Unusual. Although Julia's pregnant, so she hasn't had a button on her pants for a while.
I haven't been able to button anything in a couple weeks now.
Julia, you'll never button the same again.
I'm starting to learn that, I think.
Yeah, it's never going to feel good. It's the weird thing of just like, you're going to get so used to just being that you're like, God, why would I ever want to put anything skin tight on?
Oh,
it's lovely.
Yeah, I'm here for that. Yeah, sweats forever.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Mila, let's talk for a second. Well, more than a second. It's why you're here about Luckiest Girl Alive. Only a second. Let's talk about Luckiest Girl Alive.
It's going to be real fast.
There's a publicist flipping a table right now as you say that.
Guys, we got like less than a half a second, so.
No, it's based on the Jessica Knoll, just a massive bestseller that caught the world's attention, like at 2015. So, it was like 7 years ago, and people have been waiting on this. First of all, for anybody that hasn't read it, you want to give us the setup and tell us who Tiffany, a.k.a. Ani, is?
Yeah, it's the worst movie to try to set up without giving away anything. So
It's hard.
Yeah, and I should have like a cheat sheet, but that requires homework. I would say that the best way to explain the movie is it's all about a woman who puts on an incredible persona in the same way that people put on Instagram and a version of themselves that they see fit, that they want people to look at them as, and the type of attention they want to attract. And then you end up unraveling all the onions of who she is and why she is the way that she is, while there's a multiple of mysteries to be solved of how she got to where she is, ultimately, hopefully leading her to accept herself and all of her flaws.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin anything for anyone who hasn't read the book, right? Who doesn't know the story, because it really is a mystery. However, I think the thing that's so kind of universal about it is, in a very extreme way, she reinvents herself. She becomes the kind of person that she wants to be.
Yeah.
In her case, her trauma that she's trying to overcome and the reasons are really extreme.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But there's something very still relatable about this young woman who goes to New York and gets a job at a magazine and tries to become this other person.
Yeah, I think that it boils down to we are two people at all times. All of us are. There's a version of us that we put forward that we want the people to see, and then there's a version of us that is constantly battling that person inside. And that is what this film is about. And I find that to be very relatable at all times to everybody. You don't have to deal with trauma necessarily to find a different identity at all times. You're always trying to reinvent yourself. You're always trying to be somebody you're not. Like, I look at my kids, and the reason I didn't want to send them to a school that is K through 12 is because I wanted to allow themselves to be able to reinvent themselves when they're in 5th grade, when they're in 8th, 9th grade, whatever those moments in life are. And I think as you get older, you have less and less opportunities to reinvent yourself, especially nowadays when everything is so public and permanent.
Well, there's something so interesting when we meet Ani. She's engaged to this character, Luke, who's played by Finn Wittrock. And there's such a weird dynamic between them in a way, because there's this, quote, idea of an unconditional love. They're engaged. They're like only a few weeks out from planning their wedding. And yet she's still, as we see her walking down the street, as women are looking at them, she's like, yeah, I got him.
Yeah.
Because in your face, blonde trust fund lady, he wants me. But it's like, does she want him, or is this some other sort of status or thing, like I did it in my quest of trying to get past trauma, of trying to feel loved, of trying to whatever?
I think it's both. I think that she's convinced herself that this is what's going to make her happy. And I think we always do that. We always think that this is the right thing. This is what's going to make us happy. Like, once I reach this goal, then I'll finally be fulfilled. Once I reach that goal, I'll find that happiness, or I'll find that solution to a problem. And I think that the unravelment of this is realizing that none of that is true. You'll never find happiness and fulfillment until you actually deal with the things that are in your past.
It's the young version of you in this movie is Kiara Aurelia. She is, from Cruel Summer. And I felt like it was such a good match of young actor, versus,
Old
older
actor. That's okay.
Old
You can
actor.
say it. It's fine.
I'm really
rated.
stumbling
It's
over
fine.
words. Very early in Los Angeles.
It's fine. It's fine. Old
Old
and young.
versus
Yes.
Yeah. Adult versus teen. We should say.
Mature.
Oh God,
Adult
that's
versus
even
teen.
worse. Mature.
I'm going through a geriatric pregnancy, Mila. We can say it. Mature,
Oh,
geriatric, as they say. here.
Oh, you're over 35.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah.
Did you and Kiara did you compare notes a lot? Like, how did you guys piece that performance together? Because you're obviously doing it with another person.
Yeah. It's interesting because it was COVID. It was peak COVID.
Wow.
So a lot of everything was on Zoom. First and foremost, we didn't get any rehearsals in person because you couldn't, and we were all getting into. We shot this mostly in Canada with exteriors in New York, but getting into Canada at the time was a feat all in its own. So Kiara and I only ever interacted on Zoom, and then we met up almost by accident in Canada for like a brief moment, and then I saw her out and about while we were doing production. But what they did was, because the younger character stuff was so condensed, they shot most of it within the first 2 weeks. So the beautiful thing is, because I was a producer on it, I was able to watch the dailies every day, and so I got to see, call it her performance, and pick up on like little things without hindering her performance. Like, it wasn't like I was like, oh, you should do this, or I'm gonna do this. It was easier for me just to watch the dailies, pick up on stuff, and then when it was 2 weeks into production, I just kind of a little bit of brought that into the character. Or Mike Barker and I talked about it.
Can we also talk about Connie Britton, who
Yeah.
plays your mom
Yeah.
in just
know.
the most mom way ever? The way moms just like get under your skin, perfectly paired. And I'm curious, like with you as Britton, were you like, we need a wine swiller, we need an overtop? There's a scene where you guys have this confrontation on like a pier. That and you're just like, this is exactly. I need more of Connie Britton and Mila Kunis together. Apparently,
I know there's a really great scene that didn't end up in the film. That's a really great button after that. The scene that you mentioned that ended up getting cut out for time. That Connie was extraordinary in.
oh,
So I hope that at some point they'll just release it because it's such a good Connie Britton moment. Yes, she's extraordinary in it. I will give credit to Jess. The way that Jessica described the character in the description in the movie was very specific. And then you bring Connie in, and she just makes a meal out of it. Like, she's a wonderful. We were shooting, like, there's a scene where I'm trying on wedding dresses, and she has this whole confrontation with one of the young women working there, and I could not stop laughing at her deliveries because they were just so wonderful. Yeah.
I also love, only because I am 18 times older than both of you, and I was right in the sweet spot of teenagedom when I saw Flashdance with Jennifer Beals.
Oh, sure.
And I can't, every single time since then, and she's done so much work and she's so great, but every single time since then that I see her, I just get excited. And to see her as your boss.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's tough in this. I thought that was another great piece of casting here.
A little tidbit for you. Jennifer has also played my mother before in a different film, in a movie called Book of Eli. And the irony is, that wasn't that long ago. And here she is, however many years later, call it 15 years later. And she's playing my boss. And I was like, you could have never played my mom. Like, the fact that we're in this industry where Jennifer Beals plays my mother, I was like, maybe it's possible if she was like a teen mom. But yeah, she's great. I was super excited to work with her again.
Well, and because Jessica Knoll, who wrote the book, and again, we don't want to like really give anything away, but a lot of it is based on her own personal trauma and overcoming it. And so I'm sure, she had specific things that she had in mind watching, as she's involved in it and adapted it, about how she wanted Ani worked. Like, what conversations did you guys have prior to figuring out how exactly Ani and Tiffany would come to life on screen, and or if there were certain things she wanted to make sure never got dropped or anything? I mean, obviously she had say, but were there things that she really wanted to fight for?
It's a very good question. You should ask her for details on it, because it's a really elaborate answer, but I'll give you like the gist of it a little bit. So The one wonderful thing about Jess is that she was able to separate the two. She wrote the book, she wrote the script, and then she hired people to make it into a movie. She's also a really smart writer where she knows not everything that is real can actually be portrayed on film. It doesn't always translate. So she allowed for artistic liberties when it came to telling her story. So I'd like to say she was inspired by true life events, but this isn't
right, not specifically. Yeah,
yes. So there are some aspects to it that were very much taken from her life and conversations that she plucked out and wrote out. But she also gave us the grace to interpret it and make it our own. So as far as like specificity of things, she was such a team player that I honestly can't think of like one specific thing. Which is like aside from wardrobe, which I know is not like, but wardrobe.
That's interesting.
Yeah, she was very specific on the look of the people. Like she wanted Finn's character to look a very specific way because they're all plucked out of people that she knew back then that they were all based on, and she wanted a very specific look to them. So she was much more involved in wardrobe than most people probably think, or the look. Yeah.
I would imagine your high school experience was completely erratic in a way, Mila, because you were also working at the time. And what was it like? Were you sort of going to high school on set, or what was the situation?
Yeah, so I did both. I mean, I was very keen on getting a college degree, not for any reason other than I thought I should or had to, because my whole family is college educated. So I was like, well, clearly that's what one does. And so I went through the public school system. So I had tutors when I was shooting. And then when you do sitcoms, there's a schedule of like 3 weeks on, 1 week off, 2 weeks on, 1 week off, 3 weeks on, whatever. So during that 1 week, if as an adult, you can do other projects if you have time, or you can do other things. I just went back to public school. So the erratic behavior was probably popping in and out of my public high school and then going back and doing schoolwork on sets. But it was great. Like I never looked at it as anything weird or strange. It was just like my norm. And I think I got really fortunate because I, not to age myself, was in high school before social media. I mean, any form of it. There was no Facebook. I don't even think MySpace. I think MySpace happened right after I was in high school. So it was all great. Like I still got to be a kid. My friends were all in high school. I hung out with my friends after work and we did things like go to the mall and do, all that stuff. So I never missed out on any experience. I'm trying to remember, the only weird thing was maybe I would have to take a bio class at 8 a.m. to do all the dissections in school. And then I would leave the second the bell rang at 9 in order to be back on set by like 10. That was maybe the only weird thing was just like.
But you get to the set, you were like, you're not going to believe what I did this morning.
I smell like a dead frog.
Yes, because you smell like formaldehyde. Like you just kind of stink.
Right.
And you're like, I'm so sorry, I'm taking bio this year. My bad. But it was just. Yeah, I mean, there's maybe an element of code switching, but I don't even know if I ever had to do that because I was so like, whatever, like it is what it is.
Well, and I feel like we learned from the Super Bowl commercial, it was Fairfax High, right? Where like the Red Hot Chili Peppers went.
Oh, yes. We have lots of wonderful alums.
Wow.
Thank you for knowing.
Wow.
Yes,
Julia, like
yes.
a master's in Fairfax High.
Fairfax High.
Wow.
I only know Fairfax High from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. They always talk about it.
Yeah. It is something that I'd like to tell. Yes, that is true. Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Like, did the school understood? It's like, oh, of course, one of our students is also going to go film that 70s show and then do bio at 8 a.m. Like, it seems like they were pretty chill as hell if that was the case.
So, yes. Okay, I was going to a different high school in LA that was less chill, and also public high school. And when I got 70s, I did the pilot in 9th grade, which means that I just kind of worked for that 1 month or whatever. Then they got picked up and I went back to the school and I was like, hey, I'm going to be out this year. So I need all my homework. There's all this stuff that comes with it. And they're like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. And I was like, oh. And so you called other high schools, like the public high schools, and you're like, hey, this weird situation, X, Y, and Z, can you accommodate? And Fairfax was one of the only ones that was like, yeah. Okay, well, accommodate.
Like, whatever.
Yeah, because it had to do with absences, and I was going to be absent for majority, so I technically would fail from simply being absent. It's a technicality in the public school system, and they were willing to overlook that. Yeah.
Mila, just to get serious for a moment, there is you obviously you are from the Ukraine.
Yeah.
You have raised an enormous amount of money to help people, to help feed people, to take care of refugees. Where does that stand right now? Can you tell us a little bit about the efforts and maybe how people can go and support that?
Sure. We did this because I think it was like maybe a little under 48 hours, and we didn't see anybody doing anything. Not that anybody has to, but I think most the country was in shock that it happened. And then because I think I was from there, people started reaching out to me about this one particular thing, being like, well, what can we do to help? And I was like, oh, give me a minute to figure this out. And so, to give credit to GoFundMe.org and to Ron Conway and my husband, we did it all within 12 hours of setting up this, and then the infrastructure itself. And then as far as like how to delegate the money and make sure that people knew that their money was going where the intent is, because so often in crises, money gets like lots of horrible things happen, which is why people are always a little tentative about donating to nonprofits if they don't really know what the overhead is, and I don't blame them either. And so we wanted to make sure that people were fully aware. These are both of our companies that we are fully vetted, that we know and trust and work with, that is already on the ground. So the best thing that you could do is use existing infrastructure and empower it. So for us, like shipping things, Flexport made sense. And that was, there's already pre-existing cargo containers full of toilet paper and toothbrushes and blankets, but they're sitting there in crates waiting to be shipped. So we can facilitate that because that already existed. So we knew we can get shipments into people. And then as far as housing goes, Airbnb.org is a pre-existing foundation that is fully vetted, transparent, the same, that was already taking people in. And we talked to Brian at Airbnb, and we're like, this is what we want to do. What's the cost per family? And so when we did the raise, we were like, this is the cost. So it wasn't a question of how we were going to distribute the money. We spelled it out. This is the cost for a 747 cargo round trip. This is a freight round trip. This is housing per family. Like everything was spelled out. So when the initial ask for 30 million came out, it was honestly to band-aid a problem for what we were hoping would be a 2-week, 3-week period until a government would step in with billions of dollars, because unfortunately 30 million buys you very little time.
Is the is your organization still up and running?
You can still absolutely, yes, you can still donate if you'd like to, but and which they ultimately go to flexport.org and airbnb.org, which are both still fully functioning.
So you could go directly to both of those as well.
You can go directly. You can go from the GoFundMe.org page, which will distribute it. There's also, like, since we've done this, the Ukrainian government itself, the president has set up a .org. There's a great thing that Leah Shriver is doing called Blue Check. I think it's bluecheck.org, which is you can donate to Blue Check, and they will, I think, distribute the money to vetted NGOs. So it's solving the same problem. It's just simply vetting the companies that already exist and making sure that they are honest, great, and the money goes directly to the people that need it.
To take it back to a low budge thing, I was thrilled, Mila, when you and Ashton showed up on Rachel Lindsay's season of The Bachelor.
Oh, Bachelor Nation, yeah.
And I'm curious if you guys have maintained. It's hard when you have kids, like keeping up with the amount of episodes, everything.
Let me just answer your question. We've maintained. What would you like to talk about?
Thank God. Well, I want to know, what is your reaction to Tino and Rachel? What's going on? Give us your rundown.
This whole season to me was a little wonky because it was one of these weird things where you didn't even have time to invest in anybody's relationship because they were showcasing two separate people falling madly in love, and normally within the span of a season, you watch the people fall in love and you're invested. And here, you never even got to watch them fall in love. It kind of just happened. And then they were in love. She was in love. He was in love.
Right. You end up with one. It's like, this is it. Or
yeah, exactly. So, but as far as like the drama that happened at the end, only they know exactly what happened, how it happened. Like when things get too real, I don't like it. I like things. I don't like actually for like life imitating art. I want it to just be art. Like I just like the entertainment part.
I will say Julia was beside herself
when Tina,
with that whole cheating thing.
Yeah, but here's my thing. Let me just ask you, Julia, because and this is just for a conversation, so I don't want to be canceled. Here's my if your husband was like, look, I'm taking this wedding band off and we are done. If that happened, and that's how you interpreted it, whether or not that was his intent, but you interpreted it as we're done. I'm taking my ring off. You'd be like, all right, I'm bouncing, right? Like you'd be scot-free. It's hard to tell because I think everything is so pressurized And this whole it's such a funny world that they're in and a bubble that they're in.
Right.
I'm not justifying what he did.
No, totally. I get what you're saying, but I also thought, I mean, the moment he was like, well, when I was journaling and open to like page 1
that was
of a
so
brand new
cheesy
notebook,
and
I was like, oh, really? You were journaling about your experience?
I know.
You know? And just sort of this, well, it was just odd because Tino seemed like the most confident, insecure person I've ever seen. I was like, are you an actor? Like, what's going on? This should be, you need to be moving around in this business. There was something where it was like he wasn't listening and all he heard was like, I'm busy, like I don't want to sleep with you, I'm exhausted. And and he's taking it as like, you hate me, now I have to go make out with other women.
Exactly.
They were doomed right away.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yes, which is why I was like, bad actions on his behalf. Like, really stupid, dude. Don't go super extreme night 1, right? But also maybe just bad communication skills amongst everybody. It is just one of those.
Absolutely.
But again, that's like when it gets too sad to me. Like, I like fun, obnoxiousness with like, shirtless men and women running around being ridiculous.
Well, Paradise has started,
which is
thank
my
God.
favorite.
Yeah. I love it because there's no stakes. Exactly. It's just like, let them just find love.
Lots of marriages through Paradise.
I know. And like 7 babies.
Yeah.
So it is, and 1 Mexican commitment ceremony. So it is, it's successful.
Mila, I'm sure everybody has asked you this, but how is Ashton doing with the recovery? That was, for those of us who don't even know him, but saw that happen.
It was so
scary.
Long. Oh, yes and no.
You know what I mean?
No, you mean from his vasculitis?
Yes.
That was 3 years ago. I think that everybody kind of ran with a headline as if it happened yesterday. It didn't. So I do want to say he's doing great. This was also a very long time ago. Since then, he's now running the New York Marathon. So he's recovering and he's doing fine, guys.
Good.
Yeah.
That's impressive, though.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear it. When he ultimately spoke about it, my husband had meningitis.
Oh.
In like one moment, fine.
Yes.
Then in the hospital for 4 days. Totally fine now, but it triggered me because I was like, it could happen overnight, something like that.
Which is what happens, which is why all of these things are like, there's no hindsight 2020 of, I should have seen that. And no, once you get any vasculitis or meningitis, unfortunately, once you get it, you're down. And then it's a matter of figuring out, like, you finding the needle in the haystack as to what the problem is. And then I always look at science. I'm like, once you have the diagnosis, you're safe. Like, it's just getting to the diagnosis that's the scary part. But the actual diagnosis was the easy. It was fantastic.
But I think it's good to talk about those things publicly because it reminds people that if you have, for example, with meningitis, a crashing headache, something could really be wrong. Don't go to the doctor for a little headache. But if it's the worst headache of your life, go to a hospital.
So he had a headache, and he was like, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. It's not that big of a deal. Take that as a lesson learned.
Yeah.
Per your point, it is. I mean, again, if Tylenol works, you're fine. But if Tylenol is not working and you're not predisposed to migraines, just go get it checked out.
Yeah, that seems to be the thing. Like a migraine when you've never had a migraine.
Exactly.
Like listen to your body.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mila Kunis, the movie is Luckiest Girl Alive. It is going to be in theaters on Friday. Then it's going to be on Netflix October 7th. It is the movie that fans of this massive bestseller, Luckiest Girl Alive, have been waiting for a long time. And you did it.
We did it. We all did it.
You all did it. Congratulations on the movie, Mila.
Thank
and
you.
we so appreciate you joining us.
Of
Thanks
course.
for stopping
Have fun
by.
in my hometown while I'm in New York City.
Yeah, we'll enjoy it. We'll hold down the fort for you. By the way, the heat wave will be over after today.
I love a heat wave.
Come back.
Hold on. This is where I thrive. It's my you
like the heat?
I love a heat. Like 89 degrees is my prime happy place. So you know how at nighttime for us right now, it's like people are complaining. All I want to do is eat dinner outside, play outside. I love warm, hot nights. I know.
Well, then you should get on a plane now.
Yeah, you better get back.
This may be the last one.
Meanwhile, I'm in a cashmere sweater, guys. It's a little chilly here.
Chilly in New York, yeah.
Well, we're
have a great trip
weak
there.
living in
Thank
LA.
you.
Yeah, it's like our blood is thin.
I know.
It's true. All right, Mila Kunis, Luckiest Girl Alive, in theaters Friday, September 30th, on Netflix, October 7th. Appreciate you stopping by.